welcome to the Sigma Show, episode 123. I'm your host, Sigma. Just before I let you know who is joining me this week, real quick, we'll go over what our topics will be. First up, if you heard that Warner Bros. Was up to more BS, you were right. They tried to cancel the Coyote versus ACME movie for tax reasons. They were basically going to not release it and then claim whatever tax write-off they can get for it. People got pissed, and so they're now allowing it to be shopped around to other outlets. And then the government said, maybe we should look into this garbage practice, which I always think is interesting when the government gets involved into media business. So that'll be our first topic. But following that, Jeff Keighley has released all of the nominations for the Game Awards this year. As usual, people have differences of opinion as to what was nominated, what wasn't nominated. And in a year like 2023, which has had so many fantastic releases, I think this is a amazing thing to like jump down a rabbit hole of, especially this year. So here with me to talk about such things, Rexicon Jesse.
Oh, that's me. Hey, everybody.
Omar Ahmed.
Howdy do.
And Yokina Cat.
Hey, y'all.
Welcome back, everybody. Glad to have you here. I see you guys in chat. Welcome to another episode of Sigma Show. Let's jump right in, shall we? We tend to start things with a what you've been playing, what you've been doing, what you've been watching. We will keep this short, though, because, one, we have a hard out today. We're going to close up shop at 12 on the dot because folks have places to be. So I'm going to ask if you can keep it to like maybe one or two things from either category before we move on to our topics proper. Okay, does anybody want to jump right in and get their show and tell?
Real quick.
The names are wrong, says Real Honey.
Yeah, our identity, all of our identities are.
How did that happen?
Oh no!
I thought it was right.
I am never first in the lineup. Discord puts our cameras in alphabetical order. I'm almost never first. I don't know how this happened. Like R comes before S.
But I'm usually on the other side.
Yeah, I don't know how this happened. This has never happened. Discord is doing something brand new.
Yokina Cat, finally.
All right, so while I fix this, somebody can go right ahead and jump into their what you've been playing.
I mean, I'll be very short and sweet about this.
Yeah,
As you know, things have been crazy in my life and the lives of the people around us. So I haven't had time to play much of anything at all. I did watch this movie Ambulance, though, from Michael Bay last week, which is phenomenal.
How old is that?
And
that's not that old, right?
No, that's last year.
That was just last year, right?
Yeah, that's the Jake Gyllenhaal movie. And the dude from the oh god, the remake of Sandman. The dude from the remake of Sandman.
Doctor from the Watchmen remake.
Oh yes, yeah. He was also Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen. But yeah.
Yaya. No, not that guy.
I have no idea what his name is, but he's a great actor. But regardless, this movie is hilarious. It's stupid. It's Michael Bay, and also incredible drone shots. Yeah.
All right. Nice.
Yeah.
I accidentally watched the first Transformers movie, which is another Michael Bay classic, and I have to say, yeah, I was in the gym. It was playing on a TV, so like my eyes were focused on it.
Excuses.
Wow. The thing is, like,
that movie's dope.
Yeah, that's actually the only good Transformers movie. Like, I honestly feel that way. Like, everything else from him in that franchise is trash, but that first movie is very watchable.
That movie, I mean, and all Michael Bay movies, they're inherently trashy. Like, anything with Megan Fox is so exploitative. And also, like, oh man, the second one I'm thinking of now with like the two comic relief, Transformer.
Yeah,
it is. It's kind of
pretty bad. King's Dad says Yahya Abdul Mateen. That's his full name.
Okay,
thank you.
Great.
Yes, John Luan, the racist robots. Yes, that is what we refer to.
We are referring to the racist robots.
There's racist robots in
the
Transformers?
In the second Transformers movie, yes.
Just
the first one does have a stereotypically like.
It's the I know exactly which ones you're talking about. In the second one, right?
Yeah.
There's two Hispanic cars. Yeah. All right. Let's continue.
Ooh,
all right. Sorry.
There's also a good like a wrecking ball testicle gag in that's burned in my memory forever.
Yeah.
What?
That one is pretty wild that they decided that they were gonna do that.
There's some choices. There's some peak choices in Transformers movies.
My goodness. But okay, is that all for what you've been watching?
Literally.
Okay, all right, that's fine. That works.
Yeah, the rest is I am currently technically unemployed, but I am busy as hell.
Right. We all know that story.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody else want to go next?
Sure, I'll go.
Go right ahead.
As y'all know, it's the same for me too, so I'll probably be pretty short. Tekken. I am now 9 ranks away from Tekken God. So
Oh my God,
really-
Kat.
Hang
Yeah.
on. What for the casual plebs, what is a Tekken god? I mean, it sounds very prestigious and good.
Okay, so like you have in Tekken, you start with on first dawn, which is like the first rank, and then the highest rank is actually Tekken God Omega, but it's just basically like your ranking system, kind of like Apex.
Okay.
If you play like Apex or any other type of game that involves like a ranking system, this is a ranking system in Tekken. So, my goal is just to get to the first level of like the Tekken gods, which is just Tekken God by itself. But I'm now 9 ranks away. So I never thought I'd get this far, but I said, you know what? I've only dedicated myself to playing when I do have time to play. I only really play Tekken. So
I mean, that's how you do it, right? You
Right,
hyperfixate.
yeah, really. So it's been Casey sitting in the Discord, some of the videos I've posted, and some other things. So it's I'm excited, and I've signed up on the esports website for Tekken 8. So I'm going to start competing next year, hopefully.
Yes, I can't wait.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm sure I'll lose. That's just part of it, right?
I don't believe it.
So I'm really
I've
excited. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. And then as far as watching, I've been just really into like documentaries, like true crime documentaries lately. Well, no, that's pretty much all the time, but that's mainly what I've been watching. But I watched one, it's on Showtime. You can see it on Showtime or Amazon Prime, but it's called Outcry.
Haven't
Y'all
heard
have
of
to
this.
watch it.
No.
You have to, yeah, it's called Outcry. It's about a high school student who was wrongly convicted of something. Like, it's crazy because in the beginning of it, you're like, oh, bro definitely did what they said he did, and then by like the third episode, you're like, yeah, you feel like you're in the jury box. Like, it's like, whoa, like you don't know what to believe. And then there's also another one that I want to watch. It's actually about Jared from Subway.
Oh damn.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a 4-part
Whoa.
mini docuseries. Yeah, so I want to watch that one too. But that's pretty much all I've been. Casey, that's pretty much all I do. Like, I deal with that stuff every day at work. But yes, I do still watch true crime stuff.
I mean, if you do what you love, then you're never actually working, right? That's what they say.
Right, yeah.
Something along those lines.
Yeah,
You're talking
they
about
say
crime?
that. It's not true though. Crime. Yeah, you do crime every day. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you love crime, is it really a job?
Hey, and I say this all the time. Like, bad people keep me employed. So
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Somebody got to
like,
deal with them.
we obviously our job is to make sure that we prosecute people, but they keep me employed, so it's like a double-edged sword, I guess, if that makes any sense.
So we
Like,
need more people committing more crimes.
No, we do not need more people committing crimes. And
I
to clarify,
gotcha.
I do not prosecute people.
mhm.
I assist people who prosecute people. So
Right.
So I mean, it's just
yeah.
good for business. That's all. It's
Yeah, it
fine.
is,
You can
yeah,
say it.
sure.
You can say it.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much what I've been doing.
All right, cool. Jesse, do you want to go next?
Sure. I don't know if you know this, Casey. You know EA made a Dante's Inferno movie based on their version of the game?
It was animated, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I do remember this. Did I watch it? I'm not sure. Did you watch it recently?
I did watch it recently. I watched it last week.
Okay, so how was it?
Surprisingly enjoyable. Like,
I mean, that's what the game was,
Right.
when we actually played it.
and it was very close in a lot of ways to the movie. First of all, it was animated, and there was like 3 or 4 different directors, so each section of the movie.
Oh, it's like
which
an
was not the-
Animatrix kind of thing.
Yeah, but it was
Oh.
just a straight through hell story rather than Animatrix, where it's like, here's a self-contained
Okay,
story.
yeah.
It was his story from going to hell to escaping hell. But there's like about 4 different art styles within that, with like I think a different director in each one.
Okay,
that
so
sounds interesting.
it's more like the thing where people recreated Shrek like 5 seconds at a time.
What?
I've not heard of
You never
this.
heard? Yeah, it's
No.
I have
like
not either.
I think this was a thing at Shrek Fest in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
All right, yeah, Jack
Wait,
told us a lot about Shrek
wait,
Fest.
hold on. There's a Shrek
There's
Fest?
a lot of,
Apparently.
Yeah.
sorry to derail this with Shrek, but yeah, there's a Shrek festival in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
It's as
People dress up
cursed
as
as you might
Shrek.
imagine.
They celebrate Shrek. They probably burn Shrek in effigy. I don't know, but
That is ridiculous.
yeah. But yeah, a bunch of different like filmmakers took 5 second chunks of Shrek and
I
stitched
need-
them together
I
into
need
the full movie.
that-
Please
kind
send
of
me
amazing.
like the latest link of this that you can find.
Yeah.
because
Okay, I'll dig it up.
That actually sounds fascinating.
All right.
I
Go on, Jesse. I'm very sorry.
no, I'm good. I don't know if I can dedicate enough brain space to watch the whole thing, but I absolutely want to at least start watching that. That sounds wild.
Shrek Fest. This requires further investigation offline, so thank you for that.
Yeah. But yeah, okay, so it's several different art styles. Yeah, it follows the story mostly correctly. There's a few things that we're like, is baby shooting out of mouth nipples going to be in this movie? And the answer was no.
Oh,
But
darn it.
it did have some other real wild stuff that we were like, this is
Maybe,
in
like-
the game. And so that was in
Darn.
it. So, yeah.
No, that was something Jesse and I were actually very impressed by. Is like how insanely disturbing they were able to get the visuals in that game. Like stuff was very, very off and very,
Yeah.
and that seems. I mean, that's part of it, right? You're in hell. It's like the worst place you could ever be.
Right.
So like,
You're
please,
supposed to be
please shock me.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like they did a really good job. Like the art direction and like the animators and everything in that game, like they knocked it out of the park.
They
with
really
their design. So it was cool to see some of those in a different visual style in, like 2D animation art. And then they added some new stuff that was kind of neat and some stuff that was like, okay, sure. And it was cool to see the different art styles. It was kind of weird because there was like one or two of the art styles where they didn't really know how to draw people, but they could draw monsters really well. So like hell itself looked great. And then there was Dante and Virgil, which kind of looked like a child's recreation of a JoJo character. It just didn't quite work. But ultimately, it was kind of fun. It moved super quickly. I enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd enjoy it on a second viewing because most of it was just visual. But like, I mean, hey, it was still cool. Like, props to the people that made it.
Yeah, like back during that time, EA would actually do that a lot. Like they had an animated thing for like the Dead Space series, Mass Effect.
Dragon,
Yeah, right.
yeah, Dragon Age, which
Oh, yeah.
Which, and I will say another reason pleasantly enjoyable, I will say, is because we did watch the Dragon Age and some of the Dead Space ones, and those were terrible, like unsalvageably bad
no.
movies. Like, I
The
did
Dead
not
Space
like
thing
that.
I watched, I remember liking, and I had
well.
not played any of the games, but I don't know if there were more than one or if there was just the one.
There's
But
at least two.
two.
I've
okay.
seen one.
All right, the Dead Space thing I watched, I remember being like, oh, this is actually a pretty interesting story and setting and stuff. So maybe we saw opposite ones. Maybe we didn't.
Maybe. Or maybe it's just different opinions. That's how life works sometimes.
This is true. All right. Does that wrap it up for what you've been watching, or you got some stuff that you've been playing?
Probably been playing stuff. I don't know. You played RoboCop.
I did not. No, I sat with Nick. As he
Nick played
RoboCop.
RoboCop.
Yeah.
Okay. I was my one of my last two reviews,
Right.
which
yeah.
is now no longer available.
Yeah, they just wiped them from the internet.
Yeah. So I had a review of that game, and I was curious what you thought of it. But all right.
I mean, it looks cool from what I could tell, but like I don't know how it feels. Like
Yeah.
Nick said, it was like tank controls. You said the same thing, I think, in your review.
Yeah.
So like that's an interesting way to go for a first-person shooter.
Yeah. Which real quick summary. I like that it was tank controls. I feel like the game wasn't built well around tank controls. Like you feel real cool and powerful at the beginning, then the game keeps going, and you're just like, I guess I'll just walk towards this guy and get shot while I shoot at him. And there's like a few things to kind of spice that up, but it's not nearly
So I'm
enough.
guessing you're like super bullet spongy.
Yes, but not as bullet spongy as your enemies, which is the biggest complaint I had.
Yeah, that seems like a difference. I'm a big RoboCop fan. Well, the first one and
The first one is Okay, like yes, I watched the first RoboCop as a whole ass adult. Like I had never seen it.
As a
So,
whole
like,
ass adult.
like yeah, like
Yeah.
in my 20s being like, what was this weird action movie that everybody's like complain? And it's one of those classics that I generally didn't
Mhm.
want to watch, kind of like Ghostbusters or Jaws, where it's like I don't want to not like it after I see it, and then I have to deal
Yeah.
with everybody. That one was outstanding, incredibly scathing, like
Like
Yeah.
social
satirical-
commentary
Yeah, yeah, it
on
is.
capitalism and like
It's
privatization.
the Pulverhoven thing, like with Starship Troopers, where it's like very obvious, very blatant.
Doing my part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
love
Yeah.
like. I made that
Troopers.
comparison while Nick was playing and didn't realize that it was the same person.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
honestly didn't know either, and I love
Well, there you
Starship
go.
Troopers.
Yeah, that's a great movie too.
It is.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, go with that.
I'm
Okay,
showing
so
our age.
I'm not ashamed of how old I am.
Dang, Animatrix.
I still have that
We're showing our
DVD.
age.
Not Blu-ray, not 4K.
Not
I
Blu-ray,
still
just-
have that DVD. of
The Animatrix one
Animatrix.
that look. Yeah, my brother does.
Back did that one actually back when they had DVDs that interactive menus? Was that a thing?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
That's a lost art.
And
It is.
Oh, yeah.
cool, like cases and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the real lost art is the DVD, the in DVD menu game. Like, unlike I remember it in the Haunted Mansion DVD and the Pirates of the Caribbean 2 DVD.
CDs used
Yeah.
to do that sort of stuff too. Like it was a music
Yeah.
CD, but if you put it in your computer, it would have like a DVD-esque interactive
Oh,
menu.
yeah,
It would
yeah.
have like, oh, here's a music video, here's some behind the scenes stuff. Like
Yeah.
I used
Yeah.
to love that. It's
Let's
gone
take
now.
it a step further. Let's bring back demo discs for consoles, man. I'm telling you.
Yes.
To loop it around, there were DVDs that had video game demos on them. Like, I
Yeah.
can't remember what movie, but it was like, if you shove this in an Xbox, you can play Halo Reach or whatever.
Nick the OG says in the Superbad DVD menu, Michael Cera is dancing, and apparently it doesn't loop for like an hour. Seriously, Michael Cera
That's awesome.
legit just dances for an hour.
There you go.
Interesting.
Got stamina.
All right.
Yep.
If that that wraps things up for you, Jesse, I can be quick as well. I have not
Sure.
really played anything that I feel compelled to like talk about. I did finish Jusant, which is great, but like most of my thoughts on that are
Okay.
on the stream that we did.
Yeah. I saw you playing that and I was like, I want to ask.
Yeah, it's fine.
I mean-
It's a good game. I wish there was a little more to it, but it's a good experience.
Is it a hidden gem?
You know what? I'm not sure we can legally call it that or not
Is it
yet.
What was the one Simple Simon gave me?
Curio Obscurio.
Yeah, that was it. Is it a Curio Obscurio?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Well, is it?
Yes, we'll say yes. It's Curio Obscurio.
Okay. There you
We'll
go.
give it that much. But outside of that, I've been watching a lot of animated content. I finished Pluto not that long ago. Like I was much stronger on it at the start than at the finish because like as the mystery of what's going on gets revealed, the justification is kind of basic. So like it didn't hold me as well, and I was already kind of annoyed at the fact that show vehemently ignores action scenes. Like it goes out of its way to displace where the action is so that they don't have to animate it, and that just feels really cheap to me. Like you have the setup for like very powerful enemies who have interesting abilities, and then when they face off, you just don't show me any of it. Like that, I did not like that much at all. But overall, the plot is good. Like I like the world and the setting and stuff. So I would still very much recommend it, but just go in there knowing that you're not going to get like a high octane anime. This is much more methodical and thought provoking, and it wants you to like think about like the nature of like humanity and like the soul, like robots that have true artificial intelligence, basically being as human as humans, stuff like that, which I'm fully on board with. Like I love that sort of philosophical thinking. Also, I watched and finished Blue-Eyed Samurai, which is honestly the best animated thing I have seen all year. Like it is so freaking good. Like it was giving me like the Raid Redemption vibes in the way like it choreographs its action. Like its set pieces are so over the top and like thrilling, and like
You
the
just
way
did
they
something to Jesse just now.
like
no,
like
it's
yeah
no.
like
I'm gonna leave
Yeah.
the stream and go watch it.
you have to watch this movie if you're a fan of anything like that. Like The Ray Redemption is probably one of the best action movies ever made. Like Blue Eye Samurai is matching that level of just insanity in terms of like what is being pulled off. And the fact that it's animated, like people, this has been a thing that I think has been addressed for a while now, but folks kind of don't like when their anime is CG. Like Blue Eye Samurai is a CG animated thing, but like it adopts an art style that hides that. Like it is very hard to actually tell frame to frame that it's like I mean, you can tell it's a 3D thing, but it doesn't look like how you would expect a 3D thing to look. Like it's very painterly and artistically focused and whatnot. And I really
It's
love
very
that.
well done.
Yes, and I really love that. A lot of like 3D anime or animation in general has gone that route. Like since Spider-Verse, really, they decided like, oh, we don't have to all look like Disney Pixar with this. Like we can actually start to expand out and like try new things, and like the stuff that's been coming out since has been really good, and Blue Eye Samurai takes advantage of that in great order. Like so that's like visuals and action and stuff. Its story is probably the weakest point, but it's not weak in the sense that it's bad. It's just some of its situations are a little bit contrived. It's like two characters will run into each other, and it's like, how on earth did you find one another in this particular situation? Like it's because plot, right? Like they needed to find each other in that situation. So like, but all of that is very forgivable. It's got good intrigue, good characters that are both likable and unlikable. Like even your main character has like traits and stuff that you're like annoyed by, but then like you're rooting for them because they're honestly just cool. Like you're like, oh, I want to see what they do with their ambition. But also you can judge them for like the decisions that they make because they're not always, altruistic and stuff. So like very complex characters, an interesting complex narrative that is only just getting started. Like it ends on like a very big cliffhanger. So that show better get a season 2 because it is nowhere near finished in terms of what the story is telling. Excuse me. But I loved it. I really loved it. It put me on a serious high that like I don't know where I can go to like continue to experience what Blue Eye Samurai was giving me. So naturally, after finishing that, I jumped straight to Scott Pilgrim versus the World because that's one of my favorite properties
that did
ever.
come out.
Yeah, and that came out this past Friday. I'm on episode 3 or 4, and I don't want to spoil anything. But Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I'm sorry, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is the name of this series. I do not want to spoil anything, but it is so worth the watch. Like if you're fearful that you know this story already, or that like even if you read the manga, which has a slightly expanded version of the movie story, this is something that you need to watch. Like this.
So for I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go right ahead.
So would you say for people who are really big fans of just the Scott Pilgrim universe, they'll be happy with the way that this is being like presented to them?
Yes, for a reason that I cannot really get into.
No, yeah, for sure.
But you need to watch this show. Like please don't go in there thinking like, oh, they're gonna mess it up because it's another adaptation. No, this started as an animated thing. Like it's in Brian Lee O'Malley's art style. All the movie cast came back, so it was like it's a perfect fusion of the two mediums that this thing has like come into popular media from, and like it works. And the biggest difference, which I actually am in love with, is because like Edgar Wright's movie style. He's the one who directed the movie adaptation, right? He fit pretty much all of the big important points from the graphic novel into that movie. And he did that with just super fast cuts and super fast exposition. Like it's very kinetic, that movie, and I love that about it. Like it's very hyperactive. But this show, being that it has a little bit more time, it really adopts the actual like low-key slacker culture downtime that's in between that hyperkinetic stuff. And that reminded me heavily of the Fooly Cooley series, or FLCL. Where it's like it's very like musical, like there's always music playing in the background. The characters like use music in like as weapons essentially. Like I didn't put it together before, but Scott Pilgrim and Fooly Cooly are essentially the same thing. Like this is the Japanese version of, or the Canadian version of one another, right? Like it's got very cool, very like what's demure? Is that the word I'm looking for? Like they're like very low key, low energy, but like they're saying things that like you want to listen to. Like, and I'll say this much: Scott Pilgrim Takes Off dives much deeper into all of those fan favorite, lovable characters that you just get like very tiny snippets of time with because of how fast the movie moves. You get a lot more time with a lot more of those other characters, and like it is amazing. Like it is like they're having so much fun, you can tell, like diving into like these other characters, and like it actually hits. So I'm not finished with it yet, but I am enjoying it so much. Like I cannot wait to talk to people about this show when like more time has passed. So I'll say that much. Metric comes back too. I'll say that. Metric and Emily Haynes, they do
Nice.
another song, or at least a little ditty in that first episode, and I love that so much because they're one of my favorite bands of all time, and I found them thanks to the movie. But that's it for me.
Cool.
I have one thing. I can't believe I didn't say this. It just popped in my head. It's just real quick. I'm sorry, Casey.
No, go ahead.
The trailer for the live action Yu Yu Hakusho came out.
Oh, right. I wanted to ask you about this actually.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I watched the trailer. If no one knows this, that's like my favorite anime of all time. Casey knows this. So, it looks good. Like it looks good. So I think this may be the first live action that I'll give a chance. I haven't watched Cowboy Bebop. I haven't watched what was the other one?
One Piece?
One Piece. Yeah, I haven't watched One Piece. So I'm excited.
Interesting.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited to see what it's like. So hopefully it's good. But yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I did think that trailer looked pretty awesome. On that note, the Avatar: The Last Airbender live action trailer dropped too, which we have not said anything about. I also think that looks really good. And you guys know me, like animation is king, but like as far as like a live action adaptation, like that looks really good. The only thing is the first teaser trailer for M. Night Shyamalan's Avatar movie also looked good.
Yes, and I remember like this happened right before I left for the Navy. The trailer dropped back in like 2010, and the way it was so beautifully done of him like airbending in an abandoned airbending,
Right, yeah, and then like the Fire Nation like pulling up on the ships.
Yes, it was such a beautiful like trailer that I was like, the trailer did not match the movie
At all. It was such an okey doke.
They pulled an okey doke on it. So I'm with this one, I'm just gonna be like, okay. It may be I wasn't really impressed with the trailer, so maybe it'll be like the opposite. It's just a really good series, so I might give that one a chance too. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. I said it in our Discord when we brought this up, but I still feel like I would have preferred just more Avatar. Like, give me a third series with the continuity moving forward. Like, I'd take that over a live action adaptation. But they, like, forever ago, they announced that they were opening a bunch of animated studios, that they were gonna do like prequel movies and then like another like sequel movie about some other situation. So I don't know if that's still happening. I can't even remember if that was pre-COVID or not when that was announced. But hopefully that's still a thing that's coming in the future. But we can go ahead and move on to our first topic proper, which is still in the world of animation, funnily enough. Coyote versus ACME. This is a movie starring Warner Bros.' Wile E. Coyote, where he essentially, it's kind of a mix of real world and cartoon. And essentially, because, as you all know, the Acme Corporation items that he buys to try and catch the Roadrunner fail him continuously. Like, that's the running joke of the series. He's actually filing a lawsuit against them because, you know, their stuff doesn't work, which makes sense. That's what you would do in the real world, right? So that's the premise of this. It's a court case where Coyote is suing Acme Corporation. But this movie was shelved by Warner Brothers in order to write it off as a tax write-off, which is the same thing they did for the Batgirl movie that never saw the light of day, and Scoob, I think it was called.
Yeah, Holiday Haunt.
Holiday Haunt,
Seems fishy at Warner Brothers. I'm just saying.
I mean, it seems douchey more than anything, where it's like they either don't believe that the movie will recoup the cost they spent on it, so you write it off as a loss where you don't actually release it, but because you spent all that money and you're a business, the government will recoup you. Like that's like business law. That's something I learned from LLC Twitter, if anyone knows what that is. uh, but it's also very scammy. It's scam
It is.
feeling,
Mm-hmm.
but it's
Yeah.
it's a legal thing. Like you can legally do this because corporations are given all these weird privileges in tax law, and if you can take advantage of it, you can basically do this sort of scummy shit.
But we aren't.
Right.
Yeah, we can't.
People can't do that, but corporations can, right? So this essentially, because this movie apparently was screened and by a couple of like Hollywood insiders with a voice, they called it out. They said this is actually a really good movie. So they don't understand what the logic is in shelving it for this reason. It's almost as if it sets a very bad precedent, because the excuse for like Scoob and Batgirl was that maybe they're not good, that maybe they would not actually recoup the cost because of like how it was testing or screening. I mean, no one knows for sure because at least the Batgirl movie wasn't actually even finished yet. Like they still had post production and stuff to do. But it was a harder to make a case that they should just release it when they were in those states, and when they had that sort of perception. This was a finished product that people saw. It was testing high, and people had rave reviews for it. So to shelve this definitely rubbed a bunch of people the wrong way. When it came to the light that that's what they were doing, they got a ton of backlash from a lot of Hollywood insiders, like other directors and whatnot, who were calling WB and basically canceling any meetings that they were having, because it's like, if they can do it for a movie like this, then what could stop them from doing it to my movie, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So WB reversed course. They were like, all right, we won't can it. We won't use it as a tax write-off. Instead, we'll shop it around to other outlets. So I think Amazon was interested. Netflix is interested. So we'll probably get to see this movie at some point. But this got the attention of a particular government official, Texas Rep Joaquin Castro. Essentially calls for the Justice Department and the Federal Trade Commission to look into any sort of violations that studio may have committed by attempting to do this sort of thing, which I think is actually pretty freaking awesome. But I'm curious, knowing how companies function, especially like very big companies in the media, is there something that could be done to punish them for this? Or at the very least, is this the sort of thing that could deter them or other studios from doing the same thing? Could something come from this that stops this from happening going forward? Like, that's what I'm most curious about. And maybe like why this is such an attractive aspect of movie making for these companies as well, like to just use the tax write-off versus releasing the movie.
I fear saying anything too harsh because that's the company that runs my my beautiful battle bots, and I don't want them to stop doing that.
I have very little confidence in the U.S. government actually pursuing any meaningful antitrust or anything in the realm of like or anything punishing something that could be anti-competitive, blah 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 blah.
That is a good point.
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking about the Microsoft Activision merger, right? And I mean, there's just no indication that the government would actually there's always going to be the one or two senators or whoever who investigates and like calls attention to these kinds of things, blasts them on X or whatever. But seeing it actually go anywhere in this economy, I don't know. But,
Okay.
I guess the interesting thing about all this is that it says the quiet part out loud, because you know that every single studio looks at movies this way. They look at it as a product that's making money, not as an art piece or something for the benefit of culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, any studio would do this. Warner Brothers is just like the only one brazen enough to do it 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I think that's it's eye-opening because, yeah,
Like
it is what it is.
I want to call attention to Lampy, who's pushing back on some of the information that we had. Says, I want to add some industry context for that movie. People keep saying the movie was done. That movie was far from done. To actually release the film would take much more work and potentially millions of dollars in costs to get it to a release date. The final cut is by no way done.
Yeah, I was reading in the article here that they had finished principal photography and had like a base edit done, but it wasn't ready to ship yet.
Okay.
I'm not
Yeah, yeah.
really
Similar
familiar
to
with like,
Batgirl.
when
Yeah.
it comes to stuff like that, because that's not like the industry that I'm in. But it just makes me really curious as to like, you know, once you get to a certain point in producing something, like at what point do you realize like maybe this may not work out? Like you said like it wasn't 100% done correct. So at what point you've done it 3 times in a row with three? So is there another issue at Warner Brothers? Like you've done it 3 times in a row with 3 separate films. So it's just kind of
Mhm.
like shouldn't
Well,
that
there's a lot of issues
shouldn't
at
that
Warner Brothers.
tell you right? Like should that tell you
Yeah.
like is there a common denominator at that specifically in Warner Brothers that for the last 3 films y'all have done, y'all have canned them or
Yeah.
shelved them or you know what I mean? Like
You know,
think
there's
it's
been a consistent thing with what's the guy's name? Zaslav, is that a Warner
yeah,
Brothers?
David Zaslav.
Yeah, yeah. Just with how the Discovery merger went and
Hmm.
how they were, reconfiguring HBO Max into just Max and changing their content lineup, cutting this, cutting that. Uh yeah, even like all their experiments with CNN, right? Like all these things just they're scrambling because nothing is working. Streaming is dying. Streaming is like a failing medium in general, like
Hmm.
conceptually for a lot of these studios because they're dumping so much money into it. And like if you put a movie out on streaming and like nobody's paying for it, you're not putting it in a theater. You're just like getting the subscription revenue that you would also be getting just by having friends or something like that broadcasting on your streaming service.
Yeah, if
And
your
so
streaming
yeah,
service isn't constantly growing like year over
yeah,
year, then like for a
yeah,
company that needs that constant growth in order to function for whatever reason, they need constant growth to function.
yeah.
But
This is
yeah,
something
like
that
if at any point you plateau, then it stops being worth it for them.
exactly. Yeah, this is something that Darren's talked a lot about in his writing, just that streaming as an experiment. It was something that people put a ton of money into just with like wild hopes and dreams, but like the reality is that the market doesn't work that way.
Mm.
And you're never gonna it's never gonna be worth it to make an expensive movie for streaming or a show for that matter. Yeah, that's why you're seeing all these shows like do a season, half a season, and then get canceled. You know?
there was that one on Amazon Prime. What was it called? Some like it was some Sentent it was like a futuristic like crime show. Apparently they spent like $210 million on like the first season and they canned it. Like, do you know which one I'm
Was
talking about?
was that the one that had
Mhm.
Priyanka Chopra in it?
I think so. Yeah, they
I
were
think so.
spending like 5 million per episode or something like that, and it
What was
just
that like the Citadel or something?
Citadel, yeah,
Citadel.
Citadel, yeah, and they like
Mm.
canned it after the first season.
Yeah, it
Didn't
seemed
even
Yeah.
very
hear of
generic, whatever
that.
that was.
I was a
So
big I was a big fan of that show 1899 on Netflix. I don't know if you guys heard of that one.
I'd heard of it, yeah.
It was by the creators of Dark, very much like a Lost mystery box kind of thing. And of course, it got canceled after the first season because I guess it didn't hit the the markers that they were expecting from it.
Hmm.
And this just happens all the time because you know, it's really the artists be damned, the stories be damned. If it's not worth it, then they can just cut it.
Hmm.
and Nick OG in your comments had a really good point.
Hmm.
Casey, he said the COVID quarantine streaming boom gave a false sense of viewership and popularity, which is a really good point. I think people are getting to the point where they want it's the act of going to see a movie or the it's like a whole like thing, and I think people are starting to want to go back into going to a movie and going to dinner before or after and just the whole act of the it's a thing to do. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. Like I think COVID gave these streaming platforms and these production companies this false, I guess, picture of what it's going to be, and it's not like that because people are going out more and doing things,
Yeah,
and
Hmm.
so
Yep.
this is the back and forth that we actually had on this show in like the heat of COVID about like how all the theaters were shutting down and like everything was moving to like home streaming and whatnot, and whether that was the future. Like it was pretty contentious. Like I personally was like I kind of like this better that I don't have to leave my house, and other folks were
I
like
was
no,
too.
like yeah,
Yeah.
and other folks were like no, I want that experience back. Like I want to leave, I want to, and honestly, it feels like that has been the case honestly, or maybe it is still split 50-50, but like it does seem like theaters have begun to recover. Like folks will leave their house and go to see movies that are only in theaters, especially if they're good movies. Like Barbenheimer happened. That was a very big weekend for Hollywood. And I mean, it was tied. One was tied to like a very popular media thing, but it wasn't like a Marvel franchise, right? So like you can make a new movie and people will come out and see it, which was like some of the fear for some of these people. But that makes a ton of sense that the COVID situation boosted their numbers. But what doesn't make sense is how these companies don't register that. Like they'll look at their numbers and say, "Oh, this can go on forever," and then ignore any of the factors that help. That Nintendo did the same thing with the Wii. It's just like we had a hit on our hands. The fact that old people and people who don't play video games bought this isn't an anomaly. This is the new normal.
Yeah.
And then they ran into the Wii U, which kind of humbled them a little bit, or did it? I don't know. I don't think it did.
Something I'll say to that point, from my experience, my many years of experience working in corporate media, which I won't be able to talk about too much, but you know, from what I gleaned, especially in the past year or so, corporate brain works in quarters. And so what's happening and what you're setting right now is what's going to happen in perpetuity until it doesn't, until the numbers reflect that things are in dire straits, things need to change, this isn't going to, meet our expectations, blah, 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 and then pivot. But yeah, until that point, everything is hunky-dory.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say, though, that that's having that, because the government mind also works in quarters, but maybe on the other side of that, would you say that that's not wasteful?
Oh, no, it's extraordinarily wasteful.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's completely stupid. I don't want to make it sound like these are the methods of a sane person, which, I mean, a corporation is the person, but like
you would think that, these people are making millions and millions of dollars and we're the consumers, and you would think like, hey, like we're losing in excess of, I guess that's the whole, what are we willing to lose and what's acceptable for us to continue to stay on this path. Please excuse me if I'm not making any sense, but that's, to me, it's like, okay, we can lose about $70 to $100 million this year, but we can continue with the same plan that we're always in my mind, that's mind-boggling to me and crazy.
Yeah.
But I guess, like you said, you're like, you're like, no, this is definitely dumb. So okay.
Yeah, it's stupid.
They're not. Yeah. Like it's not a group of people who are making decisions based on like the logic of the actual situation. They're looking at the analytics of the past. Like at all time, like they're never in the present. They're always looking at what happened, and then trying. If it was a good thing that happened, then they were like, let's do what happened then, and that will happen now.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the active situation around them is, and then vice versa. Like even if the situation has changed around them, if what happened last time was bad, then they're gonna adjust to that because they're just always in the past.
Yeah, there's two things that exist. There's growth and there's room for growth, And so maybe like the room for growth is by shelving Coyote versus Acme. Maybe that's the calculation that David Zaslav and Warner Brothers are making. That if we don't release this movie, which, would go on Max and potentially flop because, they're not charging anything extra on Max for it. And they spent, 70 million right now, potentially like 100 million by the time it's out. Whatever. Maybe that was their calculus. But, that's the corporate mind for you, I guess.
I'm trying to because this is how they work, right? Like whether or not this movie is good is irrelevant. It's whether or not the last movie like this performed well. So like what was the last kind of Looney Tunes branded half cartoon, half real world thing that released? Was that like
Space Jam?
Space Jam 2.
Oh shit, yeah, it might have been Space Jam.
Space Jam freaking 2, man. Algae Rhythm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Space Jam.
But that was like, I would argue that was mostly cartoon. If they were doing a hybrid, like an actual, because I know a few people compare it to Roger Rabbit, which I think is I love clear dividing lines in a style like that. I mean, that might have been like Looney Tunes back in action.
That was like
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
And that was
20 years ago.
That was a while
20 years
ago.
ago?
That was a big
a
flop for
long
them.
time ago. Yeah.
But like either way, if they're comparing this to be like, okay, we have a Looney Tunes back in action like, or we have a Space Jam 2 like, I don't think either of those did particularly well for them.
Oh,
Well, Space Jam 2 wasn't that released to streaming stuff? Like that was in the middle of all the COVID stuff.
COVID
Yeah.
stuff,
But
yeah,
like
it was.
HBO made that
Yeah.
promise, like, oh, the next 20 films or whatnot we release are all just gonna go to Max. But then
Another
like they didn't make money from
Enchanted.
that.
I forgot Enchanted was a half. It was like cartoonish, and
Oh,
like
Like live action.
real live action. Yeah, which I love.
Enchanted's
But-
great.
but- Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
movie. Sorry.
Was that WB?
No, that
I,
would have been Disney, I think.
I think
That's
it was
Disney?
Disney. Yeah, but it was really good. I liked it. Sorry, I digress.
No, no, it's fine. But yeah,
Yeah.
because they won't just look at their stuff; they'll look at other ones
Yeah, yeah.
like it in the market too. So like, yeah, if all of that stuff wasn't like doing super big numbers, then like I can understand why their algorithm would tell them like, hey, this movie you have coming down the pipeline, like Lampy said, if it wasn't finished yet, it's like it's going to take X amount more money to finish, and based on the last couple of ones like it, it'll come out and make this much money. Therefore, don't spend that money and then take the tax write off on this, and then you won't lose as much money as you're about to lose. But then like now that there's a fervor around it, that number could change. Like since there's interest, someone else will basically. Well, I guess they still have to finish it, right? Before they can actually shop it to someone. Like they can't shop it to someone and then that person pays to finish it, right? Like it has to be a finished thing
yeah.
before they sell it.
There would probably be like a hey, we'll split the costs of this and the profits of
Yeah,
this.
well, it's still a Warner Brothers production,
Mhm.
so I imagine it would be finished under Warner Brothers and then sold as a product to whatever distributor, so
Right.
Amazon Prime or whatever. Yeah,
So like they can be safe, I guess, if they charge a premium for this because it is sort of a hot commodity now that they've made it controversial, right? Like people
Yeah.
want to see this movie. So like
yeah. Maybe that was the plan. I don't know.
I mean
Maybe
that seems very
the
forward
4D
thinking.
chess.
I mean,
Yeah,
this
now
is
they
what
can-
corporate world is, right? They stumble ass
Yeah.
backwards into success all the time, right? So
Mhm.
it was probably a bad decision that ended up working in their favor for reasons.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. I thought this was a super interesting story because it really sucks that a company can do this to you. Like the guys who worked on this movie probably were like, yo, we had a really cool idea and we made a really great movie around that idea. Like in the confines of corporate BS. Like you're using Wile E. Coyote. Like this is a legacy character from one of the most popular franchise things in the world. And like they didn't even have enough faith in you to release your movie. They were gonna kill it and make sure no one ever saw it. Like that had to hurt when they thought that was the reality. So hopefully something is gonna be done by this government intervention that stops this from happening. At the very least, a little more scrutiny is put into it so that folks have to make a better argument as to why they would try to do this if they are gonna do this. But like it can't just be whenever the numbers tell you so, just kill people's movies, because that sucks a lot.
And I think this with the over like the last couple of months with the strike, this writer strike and the actor strike, being a consumer, I really did look, I guess I researched or just read a lot on like what those two organizations were. And I think it's really like what you just said, like within the confines of like the business part of it or the corporate part of it, as an artist, as a creator of anything, whether it's video games, art, music, movies, that must be extremely frustrating to be limited in what you're allowed to do, controlled by people who essentially really don't know what it is that you do. They just control
Yes.
the business in which you
Yes.
work in.
Exactly.
So I think it's heartbreaking as like, I would rather, someone put out something that's heartfelt and I put literally blood, sweat, and tears into, and like you say, for it to kind of just get shelved, that must be extremely frustrating for people who say, I just want to do my job, create, and I just want to get paid well for it. And that's literally all they want to do.
Yeah.
That's literally all they want to do. So,
and
as a
that's the
consumer,
thing that makes those corporations money is like let the creatives be creative, and then when that stuff takes off, like you supported them, you get dividends on the back end, and then everybody's happy. But for some reason, the corporation is never happy because it's not enough.
It's never
like
enough.
I guess I was reading on like the issues with and honestly this is kind of why I haven't seen it yet, but the issues with the second Spider-Man, the Spider-Verse movie, like how they were just working those animators to like the bone.
Yeah, apparently there's a lot of
Oh,
crunch,
in that
yeah.
movie.
crunch on those
So
movies.
like
I mean,
it
if you
just
look at that movie, it looks like it. It looks
Yeah,
like
like,
slave
oh,
labor.
Yeah, they animated their asses off.
Yeah, they did.
yeah, right. So it's like I read on like stuff like that, and like some of the animators like would on Reddit and stuff like that. So I'm sorry, I'm just rambling, but it's heartbreaking to see that people that's their life's work or that's their passion, and they're kind of just put into a box because of people who don't know what they do on a day-to-day basis. So
Ooh.
Yeah.
To make this a little worse, it is people that kind of know what they're doing because they know 3D artists don't have a union like a lot of 2D artists. So they literally make them bet against each other for the lowest possible amount to do their movie, and then have in their contract that they're allowed to change what they want, and then they'll increase the workload and not increase pay, and that leads to a lot of crunch and a
Yeah.
lot of extra work on the animator's side.
Yeah. No
That's true,
unions
yeah.
in VFX houses.
That's something that probably needs to change. And
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and
Like,
hopefully
oh my God.
like with like the successes of like the recent writer strike and actors strike and whatnot, maybe they'll start to get on board with that sort of thing. Because like especially the way the world's media works now, VFX artists are essential. Like they don't make anything without VFX. So like they hold a tremendous amount of power. So like somebody needs to do something to galvanize that group and say like these are our terms and like treat us fairly and treat us right, because like
Ooh.
the industry's in trouble if they all decide that they're not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, there would. What you were saying, it's in every movie, and it's amazing to watch behind the scenes stuff and see how much like the Transformers and the whatever, where it's like, oh yeah, this is clearly Optimus Prime's person, but like just the amount of like, oh, we need more waves on this water. Add that. Oh, we're not going to do a helicopter shot. Just like make New York, and we need these buildings to be blown up and have this much traffic. Like there is a lot of stuff that is not at the forefront of what we're aware of, and like background paintings and things. Like there's so much that they do.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's why they outsource it cheap from other countries and from people that are like, clawing for the jobs, for the contracts. If VFX artists have a union, you're not going to have like 5,000, names and a bunch of different companies in like the end of Avengers 7 or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be tough because, like you said, they're so essential right now that like everybody's trying to do it, and the studios are not going to pay like a premium for it.
Yeah, it's going to take a massive amount of organization. So I just hope someone out there or some ones out there are trying, like they're at least trying to put something like that together, because they need it. The world needs it.
The world. Yeah.
But on that note,
more worker protections.
Yes, please, and thank you. On that note, we're going to move on to our final topic here, which are the VGA nominations. So they have a lot of categories here. We won't dive into every single one. There's literally no time for that. So I guess we'll pick some of the big ones and just, I guess, go over kind of our thoughts on like what's nominated, and kind of, I guess, just the year in general, if you're able to play some of the stuff that's come out. And so we don't miss it, let's just start at the top. We have Game of the Year nominations. I'll read through what all was nominated, and I guess we'll just go real quick to see like what you guys feel like should be here and maybe what shouldn't be here, if anything. Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. These are 6 games, all nominated for Game of the Year for 2023. How do you feel about this list? Good list?
I didn't play any of them.
You didn't play any of these?
I play a little Baldur's Gate. Say what? You and me? Is it you and me?
Real low. He said that real low.
I'm a little embarrassed. Well, I
played 2 of these games.
2, okay. Which 2?
Yeah.
Which 2?
I played Baldur's Gate and Resident Evil 4.
Okay,
Nice.
fair enough.
Yeah.
I have played Baldur's Gate, and I've played Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and I've played Tears of the Kingdom, but probably for the same amount of time, like 2 to 3 hours for each one of these.
Wow, that
I've
good,
seen-
huh?
I watched my boyfriend play Baldur's Gate because I don't have a PS5. But it looks like a very beautiful game.
It's a great game.
And also, I've seen online that it's the quote unquote, excuse my language, the horniest game of 2023, apparently, because of, I don't know why. I've been reading that online. I don't get it. But then when I went to character creation, then I totally understood why.
Yeah.
It's the horniest game if you choose to approach it that way, and that's the freedom of RPGs.
Yeah.
And why Baldur's Gate is a great game.
I was like, all right, okay.
Like I'd read that people were calling it that because your companions are like very easy. Like you barely have to really initiate much or say the right thing to get them to want to have relations with you.
Isn't
Hey,
that like
take me
the
to-
RPG
hey.
companion thing in general?
Kind of.
Sorry. You know, like the BioWare thing. I feel like everybody you choose the good option and conversations 5, 7,
but
and
you
9.
do at least
and
need to choose the right
Yeah.
options. Like you need to go down the path and do well on their loyalty mission or whatever.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you're like, yes, I got it. But some folks were saying, I think that certain characters, like the very second or third interaction, they're like flirting with you like super heavy, and it's like, where did this come from?
Dang, take me to get a pint of ale first. Gee whiz. Golly.
It's like the Olympic Village. What else are you gonna do?
But yeah, so I've also not put a ton of time into any of the games listed here. I really want to play Alan Wake 2. Like I have that sitting downloaded, and I want to start that because I was very curious about it.
Mm-hmm.
But like Resident Evil 4, like I was just never a Resident Evil fan, and I know this is a remake, but folks say like it's different enough, right? Like I know there was some debate about whether this should even be here since it was a game that existed already, but like. Folks are making a case that like it's different enough, right? Like you played it, Omar, right?
Yeah, no, I love the original Resident Evil 4. I think it's an incredible game, which is not a hot take at all. But
Whoa.
I mean, I think the Resident Evil 4 remake is fantastic. I have not played the DLC. It retains the pacing of the original game, and the pacing was the best part of the original game. And so, polishing that up with better controls, modernizing it, making it more fun in general with some like additional BS and like fetch quest side missions, whatever. But that's beside the point. They just want to keep you playing the game longer. But yeah, no, I thought it was great. Game of the year. I haven't played enough of these to say, but I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay,
Little
fair
side
enough.
note, did y'all see any of the mods that people were doing for Resident Evil 4?
No.
I'm sure they're horny.
The fact that Jesse is laughing makes me know. I think he knows what I'm talking about.
I haven't, but I know the scene you're talking about,
Yeah.
so I can't wait to hear what the mods are.
So, I'm sorry, I don't mean to derail you.
No,
Casey,
go
but, like,
right ahead.
Some of the mods are they're putting Leon. They're taking the cutscenes or like the gameplay, and they're modding him into like waifu or wafu like type outfits. Like there's some where it's like he's like completely like in a thong and like over like his genital area it's like a little heart shaped, like it's like the craziest stuff. Or this one I didn't really like, but they've also modded Ashley where they made her like 300 pounds.
What?
Yes. Yes. They've modded her to be like she's a curvy girl because she's a curvy girl, that's what I'll say. But yeah, look it up.
I might have to look this up.
Just look it
What
up. But yeah,
mod?
I thought it's just people's imaginations are very interesting but concerning at the same time. So
Honey Money in chat says, I've seen mods for Resident Evil 2 remake, and let me tell you, there are lots of mods where his dick is just out.
yeah, I got you. I wasn't gonna say it. Honey Money went there, but I wasn't gonna say it. But yes, he is just completely just cheeks out, double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon.
Wow.
On Resident Evil 4. Yes.
Can
Well,
you
you know
even
what?
spin the camera around to the front when you're,
I think so.
can you?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Ah!
I don't know if you rotate it every single time and you're just staring at Leon's ass. But,
I mean, most of the time,
yeah.
you'd be looking at
That's
his
true.
cakes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
as someone who plays a lot of Dead by Daylight, I find a surprising amount of Leon simps. So that makes a lot of sense why this mod community exists.
That's actually like heartening in a in a weird way. but that the objectification is like equal opportunity.
Oh yeah, people have been
I'm just
thirsting after
waiting-
Leon for like 20 years.
I'm just waiting for equal opportunity fan service in Tekken. But we've already had that discussion. If they're gonna have their boobs out and like that's extremely, I think, painful while fighting, I need to see some men in some gray sweatpants. Okay,
I mean, let's do it. Let's get the mod
I need
community on it.
I need the jiggle physics for that. Okay, if we're gonna have everything else, I need the jiggle physics for some gray sweatpants and a fade and some Nike slides. Can I get that, please?
I feel like that one guy, I forget his name, the kickboxer guy who has like the red hair. He's from Tekken 3. I can't remember his
Kickboxer
name.
with red hair.
Whatever. Basically, that dude, yeah. Have him in like
Fox.
Yeah,
Eddie
like
Gordo. Look,
mm-hmm.
the
Some
jiggle
assless
figures.
chaps.
Exactly. Thank you. Jesse knows what I'm talking about. So we're on the same page.
All
right.
There you go.
Okay, so last thing I guess I'll say on the list of Game of the Year noms. I do think Baldur's Gate 3 is probably going to win, just the way it's been talked about in the industry since it came out. Like it didn't hit that hard for me, but I can see how much is in that game and like why people who are more into the sort of Western RPG style thing would get like totally sucked up into it. But the surprising thing for me is that Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is kind of skating on its laurels into this list. Like I know that Zelda is a fantastic series. Like I love the Legend of Zelda series, but I feel like Tears of the Kingdom does one really cool thing, and honestly, like it's layered because that one cool thing allows you to do a lot of other cool things in that game, but none of those things have much to do with the game itself. It's almost like they built a sandbox, like a Minecraft-like thing, but the rest of the game is kind of an afterthought. Like the rest of the game is very much the same as the last one, which was great for a Zelda game. Like it was novel that a Zelda game was doing all that, but as the second one, they need to bring this game into the modern era. Like there's way too much menu-driven decision making in what's supposed to be an action adventure game in the Zelda series. And honestly, I don't think it looked good. Like its art design is fine, but like it
like actual gameplay, you're like, no.
Like the gameplay is frustrating because like I have to stop all the time. Like if I'd be so much more immersed in that world if I didn't have to go on my menu and select a different combination of food in order to heal myself. If I didn't have to go into my menu to change the weapon I was using or to switch from a melee weapon to a bow and arrow, or the arrow type that I'm using. Like you can do all this sort of mixing and matching of materials and weapons, but it always takes you into a paused menu in order to do that stuff, as opposed to like actively playing the game, which I don't understand why that has been ignored so much and talks about this to the point where it becomes a game of the year when there are so many other games that just don't play like this. So I'm going to go back to it at some point. I promise I'm going to play more Tears of the Kingdom. Maybe I'll even finish it. I finished I finished Breath of the Wild. But I was very disappointed in how little actually changed.
I would make a case. I haven't played it. I would make a case for it, Game of the Year being the correct category in that kind of what you were saying where they did one thing really well, but the game was the gameplay kind of being an afterthought. But that one thing was what so many people thoroughly enjoyed. And that, so is it up for best narration or best story? No. Is it best for best looking? No. Is it but like just the experience of it. That a lot of people had so much fun with it that I could understand why that would be in the sort of catch-all of Game of the Year.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I'm just glad that Call of Duty wasn't nominated for best ongoing game. That was my only concern, and I'm happy that I did not see it. So, but Apex Legends was. So in your face, Call of Duty players.
Speaking of best ongoing, let's jump into that as our next topic here, because there was a bit of contention that Cyberpunk 2077 made it on this list as a nomination.
Why would?
Yeah, I can see Jesse's face. Why would Cyberpunk 2077 be like? Can anyone?
No,
I would
It's
say
gotten better. But
no, I would.
Oh, you're
go
saying
ahead,
you
sorry.
you agree that it should be on this list?
Yeah, for how much work they've been putting into it since its release, it does seem like yes,
Yeah.
that should count.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
Like there
so-
haven't
is
played.
new DLC, but also all of the work they put into the base game.
Because remember how it was a cluster mess when it first came out, like Cyberpunk 2077.
Mhm.
So it now, like all the work, what it is now, I think it deserves to be on best ongoing game because of like Jesse said, how much it's improved
But
and how much like
wasn't all that work they've been putting in basically fixes for what they didn't have at launch?
From what I understand, it's also a lot of gameplay and system pivots, changing how the skill trees works, changing how different things work, and just like rebalancing the game in general, not just like bug fixes.
I mean,
So
there were a lot of bug fixes, but yeah, like they did
Yeah,
revamp
yeah.
a bunch of stuff before the actual Phantom Liberty DLC. But I'm curious if that counts because like the term ongoing game is
true.
essentially
Like, it's been
for
good,
live service
yeah.
games, right? Like that's kind of how that came about. Like a game that works in like seasons or that has sort of like a competitive slant so that there's always like maybe new maps or new weapons, like new content in general. So like yes, Cyberpunk has been releasing new content. So like maybe that's why it clears that bar. Like that doesn't make sense if you look at it that way. But I don't know. It was tinged with the fact that like they delivered something that was underbaked, and like it took them a long time to actually get to the thing that they had been promising from the start. So I guess that's what makes it feel a little weird.
Well, the same thing happened with No Man's Sky, right? And I believe No Man's Sky was also nominated for Best Ongoing or whatever they called the category back then.
Yeah, I think it was like last year, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
And
guess
for how much they changed, I feel like again that's a valid thing.
Has anybody here played Cyberpunk since the 2.0 update?
yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I've not made it into Phantom Liberty. Like I actually started the game over and was playing just with the new skill tree and the new character and stuff. And I was enjoying it a lot more than my first playtime through it.
Okay. Yeah,
so
no, I've only played
it's been
through
fun.
it before the update. I had a pretty good time with it. I beat the game, but I thought that a lot of what was lacking was in the like character progression after a certain point because it kind of had the Skyrim problem where you play enough Skyrim, you end up as a sneaky archer.
I mean, I
Yeah.
started that game as a sneaky archer, and apparently I learned way afterwards that that's the preferred way to play that game.
Yeah.
But that's just
I
what
mean,
I
it's
do.
honestly the best way to play that game.
I play
And,
all
like,
games as a sneaky archer if I can.
Yeah, I felt like a similar thing happened with Cyberpunk, where eventually you just become like this indestructible bullet sponge. That can just take out anybody no matter what your build is. Stealth isn't really that big of a concern. But yeah, I really enjoyed the world. I really enjoyed the characters and everything, and so interested to go back to it and meet Idris Elba.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that done at some point.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this, but Final Fantasy
14.
14. Okay, I'm sorry. This guy looked like the guy from
16?
16,
Yeah,
but this is 14. Okay, so that's, 14 is fine.
Are you trying to tell me that all Final Fantasy characters look the same?
Yes,
'Cause they kinda do.
that's-
They
Yeah, that's
kinda
what
do.
that is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other interesting categories here? Let's see what's in best.
go ahead.
No, go
One
ahead.
thing I thought was interesting. Sorry, Jesse, did you have something?
No, go ahead. I'll pick it up later. You go.
Okay. I think it's interesting that Baldur's Gate, it's nominated for a million things. It is not nominated for Best Indie Game, I believe.
Which it
You-
should not. 100% should not.
Think
It
it
should
should.
not.
No.
Okay.
Why not?
I-
Well, yeah, I want to
argue
hear these
hard.
arguments.
Yeah, because I feel like there is a very wibbly wobbly distinction in gaming, and it's never clear what is and what isn't an indie game. Because Baldur's Gate is an independently produced and independently distributed game. Like they publish it themselves; it's all in house. And
That
so, why
is-
is that not an indie game?
Because I've done a little bit of following because I like Larian Studios. They did the Divinity series
Yeah.
and stuff, and like if this would have been a Divinity game, absolutely, I would 100% say yes, it deserves
Oh,
to
are
be.
you saying
indie.
because it's licensed?
It is a licensed game? It is, and on top of that, argument back and forth on there. The much more important thing about this is the backing it has from Hasbro. Yes, they are the ones that produced it. They are hey, it's a Larian game, put it out. But following them along, they have been like, oh yeah, Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast have given us more money for this game than like the last 3 games we made combined. Like they funded them so much. Yeah, they put the ads out. They did the thing, but they could only do that because one of the largest toy companies in the world was just dumping a truckload of money on their laps so they could do that. So
Okay.
I
I
100% think it should not be an indie game.
That sounds
Yeah,
fair.
I can buy that argument. Yeah.
But then
Oh, okay. Well, buy them.
Dave the Diver apparently was funded by Nexon. So like, how is that in this list then? Because I saw folks were making that argument.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of indie games that have, you know, to some scale or another, a publisher or a backer of some sort. You know, maybe Baldur's Gate has, you know, the toy gods of Hasbro in their corner. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of companies that are just like funding independent games. You know, giving them, you know, even if it's like 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand. And so then is it independent when you're taking other people's money?
Darwin's Dummy asks, depends on how much Nexon put in. Make it a budget category, not a publisher/producer category.
I think budget. I kind of agree.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say there's
sense.
a definite line, but yeah, I think there is an amount, which then you're dealing with, well, Hasbro didn't give them that much. Hasbro only gave them 10,000, and then Wizards of the Coast gave them 10,000, and then this other branch of Hasbro gave them 10,000. That when really it's Hasbro giving them a total of 2 billion, but it wasn't them.
I mean,
I feel like once you're looking into the books, though, like it's, you know, it's gonna be really wibbly wobbly to nail down what it, you're like. Hey, let me look into your accounting before I can call you an indie game.
Yeah,
so
and I think
the definition.
no one cares enough about the definition to make that sort of play, right? Like Hasbro's not going to say, in order to clear the bar for Jeff Keighley's Game Awards, we need to make 30 shell companies and give out this money in bits and pieces. Like they're just going to give the money, and then whether it qualifies as indie or not is somebody else's problem, right?
Yeah. I think that should be it. If you have to be asked, let me see the books, you're no longer indie. Like that's when someone cares enough. That's when you've crossed the threshold.
That's how they get you. That's how they get like Saudi Prince money, and they just don't tell anybody about it. They're like, we're Game of the Year or Indie Game of the Year.
Yeah, if a Saudi prince gives you $10,000, do you still count as indie?
Yeah. If it's a personal friends and family donation.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean we're right at the precipice of 12.
Oh, okay.
So
I want to say one thing about the nominations, if I can.
Go right ahead.
Please do.
I was looking back at some of the games I reviewed and played, and I do want to say the best narrative, like best story, best characters, that stuff. I was very sad to see that Star Trek Resurgence did not make it, because that game had an incredible story. And that's like on my list of Game of the Year story-driven stuff. Like the whole game, it's got a few issues. Not gonna pretend like it doesn't. But like that was a compelling, enjoyable, fantastic story. And I am kind of sad to see it not listed anywhere.
Yeah, I didn't realize until going through this that there's no category for like best puzzle game.
I feel like there used to be, wasn't there?
I just naturally assumed that there would be, but there isn't. And like there were so many fantastic puzzle games. Like Cocoon got nominated as a best indie, but like it should be up against other like really good puzzle games like Talos Principle and Humanity that both came out this year as well. But like Humanity is not anywhere on this list as far as I can tell. I haven't.
That's true.
And Humanity is freaking fantastic.
I think it's in VR AR.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah,
because it has a VR mode, but like that has nothing to do with why that game is so awesome.
Well, it got something.
That's unfortunate. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got, or all we have time for with the Game Awards stuff. So we'll go down the line. Jesse, where can folks find you? What do you have coming up?
Rexcon Jesse on the Twitch and the Twitter and the Blue Sky and the Reddit and the YouTube. And I'll be streaming tomorrow 11 a.m. and Tuesday 11 a.m. and Wednesday at 12 p.m. all that Eastern. Tomorrow I'll be doing more Evil Within 2 because I'm not sick of it yet. It's still surprisingly fun,
Nice.
even though that story not enjoyable. Gameplay super fun though. It's a
Good to
good
know.
time. So everybody come check it out if you want to, and if not, it's your life. You live whatever, however you want to.
Do what you want. I don't
Thank
care.
you.
Yeah.
Omar, where can folks find you? What do you have coming up that they can check out?
Sure. You can find me, I guess, on Twitter, which I will probably be using more these days at Mr. Yomars, MRYOMARZ. And yeah, you can see what I'm doing next at Second Wind on YouTube.
Yeah.
So just keep an eye out on there.
Nice. Yokina Cat, where can folks find you? What do you have coming up?
They can find me on the Twitter, Instagram. Actually, PlayStation no longer allows you to post directly from your PS5 or PS4. I
Yes,
don't know if
they
anyone
just did
else
that,
saw
yeah.
that. So thanks, Elon Musk.
It's 100% his fault.
PlayStation was like, yeah, we're not messing with that. So I am gonna just be continuing. I'm hoping to reach. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I at least want to get to the rank before Tekken God is Emperor. If you look up the Tekken 7 ranking system, so that's my goal before the end of the year. That will just require me to play like every single day, which I'm gonna have to make time for it. But you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and in the Open Party Discord in the FGC server. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. And as always, you guys can find me at Sigma Gears 9 all over the internets. I mentioned it last week, but we are doing an ongoing kind of game here where if you guys can guess what I will name this episode before the podcast goes live on my my Twitter, you get a free game code. But also you can just enter for a random chance to get a game code if you rate the show on your podcast listening service and then just send me like a screenshot that you did so. Speaking of which, the person who won from last week, where's your name at? Where is it? Regular Joe. You'll be getting a code for TMNT Shredder's Revenge. So I'll be sending that to you via like Twitter DM at some point. So congratulations for the first winner of this contest. Every week, I'll like redo all the entries and whatnot. So make sure you get those entries in. Outside of that, the Open Party channel will be doing Super Smash Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Me and Jeff will be back running a King of the Hill style kind of just tournament. Not even a tournament. It's just if you're good and you stay at the top of the hill, everyone will be gunning to take you down. It's a lot of fun. We commentate the fights. The chat is lively. Jeff and I are a good hang. So come through. Hang out with us over there on that Twitch channel. And outside of that, I'm also doing stuff over on Second Wind. I've been on a couple of streams throughout the week. Hopefully you'll be seeing more of me as we kind of formulate what our streaming and video plans are going to be in the near future. But it's exciting times. Stuff that's happened over there is like blowing our minds. So come along for the ride. If you're not already subscribed over to the Second Wind Twitch channel or the Second Wind YouTube channel or the Twitter, do it. Join the Discord. There's lots of stuff happening all over the place. It's really exciting to see. So with that, I want to thank everybody in the chat for hanging out. This has been fun as always. Thanks to my 3 guests. This has been episode 123. We'll see you all next week. Take care. Peace.
Ooh, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
Hey, oh snap!
Bye, y'all.
Make a wish.
Bye.